وما أرسلنا قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. In Sha Allaah, we're starting lessons for the Arabic grammar as people and other advised to start lessons for basic grammar. I was thinking to start it after finishing the lessons of Tajweed, but In Sha Allaah we can start it now, so it goes together with the lessons of Tajweed. And this is the way of the scholars teaching these two sciences, Tajweed and grammar, Nahu. They teach them together or one after another because they are related to each other. And the scholars before, if someone memorize and perfects the Quran, they won't give him ijazah until he goes through the journey of Arabic grammar, Nahu. But nowadays, because people driven away from Arabic language generally and grammar specifically, the scholar had to separate the two sciences when it comes to teaching or giving ijazah. This lesson will be just a little introduction into the science of Arabic grammar, Nahu. We already went through the importance of Arabic grammar and how the scholars of Islam came with the rules in the lessons of Tajweed. So grammar basically is almost same way. I will try to simplify these lessons to be suitable for everyone, but to benefit best, you need at least to have knowledge of the basics, such as reading, basic sentences, and so on. Now, Arabic grammar is known among the Arabs themselves as a very difficult science. And its rules are difficult and complicated, but the reality is opposite. Arabic grammar is easy to learn, and what made it easy and what made people fear the Arabic grammar is bad teachers who didn't know how to teach it, either by teaching high level for beginners or not knowing what suits the beginner, or any other reason which the scholar mentioned. There is a famous sentence in the books of Arabic grammar which says النحو صعب وطويل سلمه إذا ارتقى فيه الذي لا يفهمه أراد أن يعربه فيعجمه, which means the grammar is difficult and its ladder or the way to learn it is long. If a person attempts to climb its ladder or enter the door of learning it, and he doesn't understand it, if he wants to make i'rab to that sentence, he will corrupt it. We will go what is the meaning of i'rab. I'rab is basically taking the relation between the words. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, when he was explaining the Ajurramiyah, and under this sentence, he said, this is not correct. We don't agree with it. Rather, we say Nahu is easy. Nahu is Arabic grammar, is easy, and it is its ladder or the way of learning it is short, and you will understand it from the beginning. So the correct way of teaching the science of Nahu for beginners is just by giving them the general rule without going into details or mentioning any exceptions. So in this way, the student concentrate on one rule at the time and find it easy to understand. And this is the way to make him love the science of Nahu. As one of the famous scholars, he used to say to his students, if someone comes and asks you, can I learn the science of Nahu in one day? Tell him yes. So this means don't tell him it's difficult and this is because that will drive him away. He said tell him yes. It's obviously he's not going to learn it in one day, but tell him yes and then teach him slowly until he loves it. So the science of grammar, it's very easy to learn if you understand the rule and then you memorize the rule, and then obviously you have to practice it by revising. In this case, Arabic grammar, you speak it or you do writing. That's the way you practice the grammar. These lessons, inshallah, I will try to keep it short and go through one rule or two for each lesson. I will explain the rule, give example, and at the end I will give you the rule which you need to memorize, because we go through it so you understand it, and then you need to memorize it, and then after you need to practice it. And in order to help you understand, all these lessons will be interactive using a whiteboard. So now, what is grammar? Grammar is basically the change in grammar is nahu. The word grammar is nahu. Arabic grammar in Arabic is called nahu. Grammar is basically, the Arabic grammar is basically the changing of the vowel of the last letter of the word and what causes the change. So the whole of the Arabic grammar is about putting the right vowel on the last letter of the word. So it has nothing to do with the middle of the word or the end of the word, the middle of the word or the beginning of the word. The beginning of the word and the middle of the word is different science. It's called ilm al-sarf. As we all know, the Arabic language has 12 different sciences. One of them is grammar. Now, grammar is based on knowing how to differentiate between noun, verbs, and participles. So before you start grammar, you need to know verb, noun, and participle, which is harf. So you need to know how to make the difference between them. There is science for each one. We will go through it, inshallah, in the future. And as well, you need to know the factors which causes the right vowel for the last letter of the word. We can go to the whiteboard to give you just an example to help you understand. For example, we say جاء محمد. So now جاء محمد. So محمد has a dhamma at the end. رأيت محمدا. So محمدا has two fatha at the end. مررت بمحمد. So as you can see, the dal of Muhammadin has a kasra. So the first sentence has a dhamma, second sentence has a fatha, a third sentence, the dal of Muhammad has a kasra. So what caused the change of the vowel of the letter dal of Muhammad from dhamma to fatha to kasra? This is what we're going to study in the next lessons, inshallah. But before we start, we will go through the 10 principles of Nahu. As every knowledge has 10 principles, the scholar, they mentioned them at the beginning, to give you the general idea about the science you're going to learn. Now, first, its name is called the science of Nahu. Its definition in the Arabic language means al-qasd, and all the other meaning of Nahu, which scholars make, they go back to the meaning of al-qasd. Al-qasd means to intend or to aim for. It is also called the science of i'rab, which can mean grammatical analysis. These two names of the nahu and i'rab, both means in technical term the changing of the vowels markings at the end of a word. So if someone is making i'rab of a sentence, he is basically telling the relation of the words in the sentence. He's making i'rab to. And before you can make i'rab to any sentence, you must know the categories of i'rab. The categories of i'rab are 4. Without them, there is no nahu. Number 1, the state of marfu', if a word has a dhamma at the last letter. The state of mansub, if the word has a fatha at the last letter. The state of majroor, if the word has a kasra at the last letter. Fourth one, the state of majzoom, if the word has a sukun at the last letter. So grammar refers to these 4 categories and its signs: dhamma, fatha, kasra, and sukun. So if a word has a dhamma, grammatically we call it marfu', and then we say the reason why it is marfu'. And if it has a fatha, grammatically it will be called mansub, and we will say the reason why, and so on, for majroor and for majzoom. If the last letter of the word has a dhamma, the word will be referred to marfu'. For example, Ja'a Muhammadun. So Muhammadun now has a dhamma. The dhamma is the sign of marfu'. So we call Muhammad, we call marfu'. Why? Because it has the dhamma. If the last letter of the word has fatha, will be referred to mansub. So Ra'aytu Muhammadan. So Muhammadan now has fatha at the dal, at the last letter. So grammatically is called mansub. If the last letter of the word has kasra, the word will be referred to majroor, like marartu bi Muhammadin. So now Muhammadin has a kasra. So now we say Muhammadin is ism majroor, a noun majroor. If the last letter of the word has a sukoon, which is the circle, will be referred to majzoom, like lam yakhruj Muhammadun. The word yakhruj, it has a sukoon. So now we say yakhruj is a verb which is majzoom, and the sign of its jazm is the sukoon. So it is very important to understand this and to become familiar with it, because all the Arabic grammar is about these four categories and its signs. So by extending them and memorizing them, you will open the door of the grammar for yourself. And without them, there is no grammar, because every word needs one of these four. Its fruit, the Nahu, is the key to the understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah. And without the Nahu, we won't have a correct understanding to Quran and the Sunnah, or even to the Arabic speech. So this is what makes the benefit of the Nahu greater. And that's why Al-Kisai used to say, إِنَّمَا النَّحْوُ قِيَاسٌ يُتَّبَعْ وَبِهِ فِي كُلِّ عِلْمٍ يُنْتَفَعْ, which means the Arabic is a measurement or a scale which needs to be followed, and it's beneficial for every knowledge. And this is why the scholars, they say النحو كالملح للطعام. The Nahu is for other sciences, like adding salt to food. If you don't add enough, the food won't taste right. And so other sciences, without Nahu, they won't be understand correctly and right. Let's go to the whiteboard. So I show you a benefit of Nahu by a story. Bishr al-Mirisi one day came across one of the imams of Arabic grammar and Quran recitation. His name is Abu Amr ibn al-Ala. So Bishr al-Mirisi, he told Abu Amr, what do you say about the saying of Allah, وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهَ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا? So this Bishr al-Mirisi, he read the name of Allah in this verse with fatha, which is in the state of mansub, which will mean that Musa spoke to Allah, and not Allah is the one who spoke to Musa. The correct reading is وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ, the word Allahu with a dhamma, because it is in the state of the doer, and the doer always has a dhamma. So Abu Amr, he knew that Bishr al-Mirisi learned the Quran from the Mus'haf straight away, without a teacher, or without even the supervision of a teacher. So he didn't want to waste his time and explain to him the mistake he made grammatically. Rather, he gave him a clear verse that proves that Allah is the one who spoke to Musa, which he can't change grammatically or deny it. So Abu Amr told him, what do you say about Allah saying, وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لِمِيقَاتِنَا وَكَلَّمَهُ رَبُّهُ, when Musa arrived at our appointment and his Lord spoke to him. So in this verse, you can't change the grammar. وَلَمَّا جَاءَ مُوسَى لِمِيقَاتِنَا وَكَلَّمَهُ رَبُّهُ, Allah spoke to him. So grammatically you can't change it. And by the way, this Bishr al-Mirisi is one of the leaders of the ones who denies the attributes of Allah. Next one is its place within the science. It is one of the sciences of the Arabic language. Its subject, studying the words of the Arabic language to distinguish between the words that the vowel of its last letter changes and the one that doesn't change. That's the subject of the Arabic. It's all about the last letter of the word. It's information, the rules which were laid by the scholars of Arabic grammar. It's precedence. It is the language of the Quran, the language of the Prophet ﷺ, and that's why Umar ibn Khattab used to say, learn the Arabic and the science of the rules of inheritance as it is from your religion. So Umar ibn Khattab used to see that learning Nahu is from religion, because it is the key to the correct understanding to Quran and Sunnah. Its derivation, it derives from the Quran and the Sunnah and the Arab's tongue. Its founder, there is different opinion between scholars. Some of them they say Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anh, and some of them they say his student Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali. Its ruling, the knowledge of the rules of Nahu in details is fard kifaya, a collective duty. But its teaching is fard ain on individual if he has knowledge of it, and especially if Nahu is needed by people. So this is the 10 principles, and as you can see, all the grammar is about the vowels. So all you have to know which vowel goes with which word. And this is all has been clearly labeled and done by the scholars of the Arabic grammar. For example, the words that had a dhamma at the end all the time are 7. From them is subject. The word which have fatha all the time are 15. From them is maf'ul bihi. The words that have kasra all the time is the words that are preceded by participle, which is harf. So if you learn, this is the way you learn. So if you learn this, slowly you start learning. Today I learned the subject, the fa'il has a dhamma. So every time you read a sentence or you write a sentence, make sure the fa'il has a dhamma, the doer, and so on. This is the way you learn one step by step. Every time you take one, you memorize it, you practice it, and then you go to the next one. And then once you learn all the basics, and then you can go into exceptions, and you can go deeper into details. Today, inshallah, I'm going to give you the first rule, which will be which you should have understood, inshallah, and which you need to memorize. That Dhamma is the sign of the state of Marfu'. The Fatha is the sign of the state of Mansub. The Kasra is the sign of the state of Majroor. And the Sukun is the sign of the state of Majzoom. Until next time, inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, shadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.